mind. I don't know, this seems like perhaps hopefully the most logical place where everybody can see. I don't have a PowerPoint, but we thought we're going to start with a video. Unfortunately, the sound is only going to go through the computer, which means almost none of you are going to be able to hear it, but we did close caption it. It's a very short video, and then I'm just going to say a few words and then open it up to dialogue. 2019. She was immediately recognizable because she had verbal tics. I don't know if she had Tourette's or not, but she would sit down in our meal service and she would shout. And whenever she shouted, she would follow that up by saying, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." And what I marveled at was how all of the other meal guests pretty much paid no attention to that. They knew Bethany. You could hear Bethany from sometimes 2 blocks away because of the verbal tics. I also saw Bethany deteriorate quite significantly through the pandemic. Her mental health, it appeared that she was using substances, but honestly I didn't really know much about her. I've had conversations with her, and even though her verbal tics were quite aggressive and loud, she would talk in a very soft and lilting and sweet voice. Bethany was killed around 2 a.m. Over by Ankeny Alley, a hit and run. They've never arrested or charged anybody with her death. And frankly, I don't think I was surprised. because for so many, especially women, this is the outcome. They live a very violent, tragic, horrifying existence. And as an organization, as a community, we frankly said, enough. Enough. We have to do something to help these women survive the night, and to be frank and graphic, because I think it's important to be honest, to spare them nights of violence and rape and exploitation. That is the first order. Can we save lives? Can we save the trauma from escalating? And once we do that, once we can offer women a place where they can be safe from those experiences overnight, where they can maybe even close their eyes and get some sleep without having to fear that they will be woken up under attack in the night. What progress can then we, with our partners, help them make during the day? How much can we help individuals once they are able to have a safe and stabilizing night? So that's the objective. The objective is to work toward solutions. I want to just answer quickly, because I know that there's been some concern about how news and information was provided for this. So just to clarify, this is not a city project. This is not a county project. We're not receiving any city or county funding for this project. In fact, Blanchet House for 73 years has been almost entirely independently funded. Our services are free, of course, and so we have provided our services because people believe in us and people support us, and often quite generously. But that is to say, we know that this cannot be successful without the city's participation, without Mayor Wilson's support, without the support of the Portland Police, and all of the other things that the city has the power and authority to do that is going to make this successful. And I don't mean just successful in the overnight hours when we're hosting these women, but during the day. And not just on this street, and not just on this block, because we understand from our work that, you know, the problems, the challenges go out in a circle. And we want to be committed to that. We want to be responsive to that. We want to do the things that we can do within our power and control to mitigate that, to manage that, to correct that. But we are telling our city partners, we can't do it without your full-throated support and your participation in this. This project is still very new. And so this was planned to be the first of many neighborhood engagements. We just entered into the purchase and sale agreement for this property a little over 30 days ago. And so for much of this time until now, we've been working on matters of doing the inspection on the property, the kinds of things that you would do when you're purchasing a property. We just got the environmental report back yesterday. We did a property survey, all of those things. And also exploring, what are the avenues in terms of permitting. We had wanted to be able to hold a larger outreach event in the property, but since we don't own it, we're not allowed to do that. We had the good fortune to meet the folks here at the Triple Lindy, and we said, hey, we really want to engage the neighborhood. We're looking for a location. We wanted to do it in the neighborhood so that it was convenient, so that we could talk about challenges standing here on site rather than bringing you all to Old Town or to another location. And Brian said, and the folks here said, well, you could use our space. And given the size, and we didn't want to, sort of ask too much of our hosts, we thought we'd start first with the most immediate neighbors, have that conversation, have that listening session, and then broaden the scope. So I understand that there are many of you in this room who feel excluded, who feel that you were blindsided. That wasn't our intent. We would have had it, last weekend, but it was Memorial Day weekend. We would have had it 2 weekends ago, but my son was graduating college and I was in Southern California. So this was, as we've started this process, really our first opportunity and the first opportunity that we had to use a location that was proximate, not only to the shelter, but to the neighborhood. But for us to do this right, and we still have a lot of planning to do, we knew first and foremost that we had to get to know the neighborhood, to get to know the district, to open up those channels of communication, to hear from you, your concerns, the challenges that you've been experiencing over time, so that we can plan to address those, so that we can bring those concerns and challenges to the city and say, hey, this is what we're hearing. These are legitimate concerns. We have to be able to work together to address this. So the cake is not baked. It hasn't even gone into the oven, right? So there is a lot of opportunity to have these conversations. We're not coming in saying we know everything and this is what we're doing and it opens tomorrow. Logically, realistically, we probably can't open the shelter into October. So there's a lot of time. There's a lot of time for these conversations.
But you've already bought the building.
We have not. We're in a purchase agreement, but we haven't yet closed.
So you still get out.
In theory, yeah.
Are you in escrow?
We are in escrow. Yeah. Yeah.
So before the meeting, you guys were in escrow before you handed out the flyer on Tuesday?
Yes, we were. We were in escrow because we did escrow and we did the purchase and sale agreement.
Gotcha.
Right. And then we started the due diligence, and part of that due diligence was going to be neighborhood outreach.
Right. Required to, right?
No, actually, per the land use, we found out that we weren't required to, but we were going to do it whether we were required to or not, because it's just good practice. It's polite, it's respectful, which is how we need to approach this. And so whether we were required to or not, we would be here. And like I said, we would have been here earlier except for logistics of location and calendar and my son's graduation. So I hope that's understandable. I do want to just let you know that we do have a partner here from the city. Brandy Westerman is with Portland Solutions, and I invited a representative of Portland Solutions, which is in the mayor's office, to be here. And I think, Brandy, do you just want to introduce yourself and say a few words about?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm Brandy Westerman. I oversee the City of Portland's sheltering programs. We sit within an organization in the city called Portland Solutions. We report directly to the city administrator and the mayor. We're the team that's tasked with implementing much of Mayor Wilson's plan to end unsheltered homelessness. And we're here to listen to you. So I'm here taking notes. I want to hear from you in the neighborhood about what the city can do and what you would hope the city can do to make this as successful as possible for everybody, for neighbors inside, neighbors outside. So thank you. I love the engagement on a Saturday morning. I really appreciate it. Happy to talk to you all.
So I don't have a PowerPoint. I don't have a formal presentation. That's not really what you're here for. And I appreciate if you're sitting on questions that you're burning to ask. Then why don't we just go to that?
We have collected them up for you. So
Oh.
the first one is
It might be good, Scott, to give a brief recap of the operations, high barrier, low barrier, security, and other matters.
Okay, I'll start with that. So the question is, in case you couldn't hear it in the other part of the room, was operational logistics. Is it low barrier, high barrier? What is your plan for security? So it will be low barrier, but there will not be use allowed in or around the property. Number one, low barrier means that we want to be as open and accessible to women as possible so that they can take advantage of this opportunity. But we run 2 sober and substance-free residential programs. We know firsthand how important sobriety is to an effective program. I think it's one of the reasons that, because we hold people accountable in these programs, that the programs are so successful. But the opportunity is, again, give somebody the opportunity to be safe and secure at night. If their trauma involves substance use, then taking that next step and helping to connect them to opportunities where they can get some more long-term care and recovery. We do have private security in Old Town. We've been contracting with Echelon Security for, I think, 3.5, if not 4 years by now. We're going to extend that contract to this property so that we will have both 24/7 response. And then we're evaluating, as we get into the planning of this project, the need for on-site security. Certainly at different times in the program, or if we have to make sure that we have more active patrols during the day. I just want to assure you, it's not our intent to turn off the lights and lock the door in the morning and walk away. We won't be holding any services during the day. There won't be any reason for clients to be on site during the day. But it will be an active part of our organization in terms of having a staff presence and all the things that have to happen during the day. Deliveries, vendor repairs, things of that nature. And so there will be a presence during the day, and we also want to make sure that we're patrolling the area. Because one of the rules will be, if you camp in the area, you can't then come sleep in the shelter at night. Because that's not a solution, that's not the solution that we're working for.
What's the logistics behind that?
Yeah, how do you enforce that? Because there's going to be an inevitable line that forms, just like the Old Town location.
Just like Rosehaven, they have the same commitment to the community that they don't enforce.
I get the intent, but in practice, it doesn't work.
Right. Well, I'm curious, because you've, I'm sure, been thinking about this. Have you thought about, well, if only this happened or this happened? I'm just asking honestly, if you've thought through what would make that work.
Yeah, it's when Portland Police responds, that there's actually follow-up with Portland Police, hand in hand work to make sure that your guys' goal is actually implemented.
Yeah. Well,
but he has to call.
Well, absolutely, and that's been yes, you're right. And so, and that's the conversation that we're having with the city and with Portland Police leadership, is that there is a limit to what an organization can do, right? And there are things that we have to rely on the city. And this is Mayor Wilson ran on this, so I know he's committed to making not just this shelter but other shelters work. That involves making sure that the impact on the neighborhood is not just mitigated, but the goal is ultimately improved.
Why this location?
Yeah, I agree.
Are you going to be coordinating with Rosehaven?
We're going to be coordinating with Rosehaven and other partners for daytime support. In fact, we're also thinking about ways we can use our passenger van to help transport women to either Rosehaven or TPI or other locations, working closely with Bybee Lakes, because they often have shelter opportunities. I'm sorry, there were 2 questions at once. And
I asked why this location.
Yeah. If you're really looking to mitigate impact on the neighborhood, why that location on Lovejoy Street?
Yeah, so I think what's a thoughtful response to that? I think there's probably, whatever location we would choose, there would probably be impact. That doesn't feel good to you because this is your location, but I think objectively speaking, and we thought there were a lot of advantages to this location because it's proximate to the public transportation,
Approximately 3 schools, too?
to Child Peace
Three schools?
and MLC and Chapman, right? But we also thought,
do it anywhere but here.
but we thought it was distant enough from those locations
That's just
to sort of mitigate that. And I understand there's also going to be a difference of opinion here, and I don't. It's not our expectation that this devolves into a conflict within the audience. I think this is an opportunity for us to hear the concerns. That is a legitimate and important concern. Yes, it is.
Yes. Hi, Bob Wunsch. I just want to ask a couple of follow-up questions. When you say you'll make sure people won't come out in the morning and camp in the neighborhood, define that. Is that 3 blocks? Is that 10 blocks? So that's one thing. And then in terms of being low barrier with obviously some substance abusers getting shelter, which is great, what steps will be taken to make sure drug dealers don't come and stay outside in the morning and start selling drugs, whether it's a block away or right outside your shelter? Because that's the experience that I've seen, that drug dealers go where the drug users are. So those 2 questions.
Yeah. So Bob, for the second question, yes, that is a legitimate concern, and we know that is something wherever a shelter is located has to be addressed. And again, we're going to have to work closely with the city and PPB, and we're going to have to be accountable for making sure that the people who are using our shelter are following our rules and adhering to these expectations. Is it going to be perfect? That would be over-promising and meaningless, but we are driven to make this a success. And that means we have to make sure that the kinds of challenges that often follow these kinds of programs are addressed and are mitigated and dealt with. The first question, can you repeat that first question?
Well, you said you'll make sure people don't come out and camp nearby.
How many blocks?
Well, I'm not asking for a literal response, but what's going to prevent them from going 8 blocks and camping out under Pettigrove and 16, which is one of the whack-a-mole areas of the city operates?
Right. Well, that's going to have to really be addressed by the mayor and his camp abatement plan. I think at some point it's 8 blocks, 10 blocks, 12 blocks. I think it's reasonable to say there's a limit to what we'll be able to mitigate and address.
Scott, you got a unique problem here.
Yeah.
And, I'm a resident of Pearl. We've spent a lot of time cleaning up the I-405 corridor. And the issue we had is we have camping, we have drug use, we have crime, we have vandalism, we have prostitution and human trafficking all going along. So when this place empties out each day, your paper says 1,000 feet is how far the circle of halo of securities could go. I can tell you that 1,000 feet puts you on Marshall and under the 405. So, the reality is this is a perfect place for people to go camp under that structure. And ODOT, the city, and the county have abdicated their responsibilities for cleaning that up. We've had to do that as a community. And so going back, and if that happens again, it's going to be a disaster.
Working with the city doesn't make you feel better.
Yeah.
Do you have a risk of mitigation?
Yeah, I appreciate that. And
And the city's not here.
well,
They're going to work hand in hand. They're right next door.
So, and if anybody's been following me over these last 4 or 5 years, I don't think anybody would say that I've necessarily been shy about calling out the city and calling out the county for their shortcomings, right?
I think the problem is I don't believe either organization, the city or Blanchet, can handle the unintended consequences of what you're doing.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
We were thinking about doing this before the election. We have a lot more faith in Mayor Wilson, and I appreciate if you're not sharing that. Okay, I'm not saying. I could just speak for myself that if it was a year ago, I probably have a lot more trepidation about what can I honestly expect from the city, and I know exactly where you're coming from.
Why not enter a lease agreement and prove your concept before you buy the dirt and open the shelter forever before you prove it? Why that?
Well, the building wasn't open for lease.
So should you find a leasable building and prove to the community that you can do that before you buy the dirt? Perhaps would be a wise strategic investment.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. It's a fair point. I don't know if I have an answer to that, but it's a fair point.
Moving on to something more positive.
I think I was next.
Yeah, sure.
But first of all, I'd like to thank you. You know, I think what you're doing is a fantastic effort. We hear so much talk and very little result. And to actually buy a building and dedicate it to helping people in our neighborhood. I'm a resident. I own property in the Marshall Wells Lofts. I work under the 405 cleaning, and we're going to open up the old community garden. And I think what you're doing here is great. I would encourage you to do it right away and not wait months and months to open it. Open it immediately. We don't see any immediate reaction. I mean, these people are living in the street. And yet, people are comfortable with that. Whereas here, you're worried about all these problems that you think might happen. Let's wait and see.
They are happening. Rosehaven is a case study for us.
Right.
So they are happening. I live across the street from Rosehaven. Yes, we're very supportive of the mission. We think what they're doing is noble. We think what you're attempting to do is noble. However, intent and execution are two very different things. And so what you have here is a place that's only open at night, and then you have Rosehaven that's only open during the day. And so what you're going to do is have a mass migration back and forth between the two, with also people that aren't going to be able to use the services at both, because they're going to violate the rules, and you'll say, you can't come here anymore. Then they're on the streets, generally very disturbed people, with not only them, but the men that accompany them as well. That come and take over the neighborhood where, you know what, I don't feel comfortable with my 2-year-old at times out there pushing him in a stroller, right? And I mean, we're supportive of having a wide open community, but there are very unsavory, dangerous people in a community of people that do the right thing, work hard, pay our taxes. And so we should also have a safe place to do that. And so by you coming in and doing this and not having the full feasibility study, the full commitment, finish the play, having the city, all of the support infrastructure in place, that would be wonderful. But that's not what you're doing from what I hear. You just bought a place, say, we're just going to throw a bomb in here and see what happens. My second question is, do you live in 97209?
No, I do not.
Okay.
But I work in 97209.
That's fine. You work and go home. Rosehaven does the same exact thing as well. And the lip service that we get from them about what their original intent was, the line was going to be inside, it was all going to be patrolled, completely out the window.
Right. Yeah. I'm not here to disagree with that, and I appreciate that. I want to go back to your question about the lease and the purchase. One of the reasons because we looked at some properties that were up for lease and for different reasons, not really going to work for the intent, which was the women's shelter. But we did think that this was an asset that if we owned, that could be used for other things in the future. We really want to do this women's shelter, but the objective would be that wasn't something that would have to go on forever. That we're working towards solutions. No, like not even as not a permanent shelter, but other things that we could do that would incorporate with other parts of our program, like a workforce retail space or an opportunity. I mean, it just felt like an asset, or that we just sell at some point, and then we sort of take that and move it towards another program. So that is one of the reasons why, although we didn't enter into this thinking about purchasing, that we thought purchasing this would make long-term sense.
At least I want to accomplish this thing.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to sort of track some of the questions. Yes, ma'am.
The Northwest Library that's going to be moving closer to the station will be an obvious daytime destination. Are you coordinating with them?
Not yet, and I'm really glad that you raised that point because I hadn't been aware of the library's relocation. That just hasn't been something that I've been closely following, but now that you mentioned that, it's something that we know, and that's really one of the purposes of this, is to sort of find out what we don't know, and then we can pursue that.
Can I just jump in really quick? I know some people wrote their questions down, and I think Emily has some of the questions, so I want to make sure those people their questions are heard as well.
Yeah. Women bringing in partners into rooms, how to prevent, how are guests or even kids vetted, our young kids. So there won't be any minor children allowed. The space wouldn't be adequate or appropriate for that. So it's going to be for single adult women only. So they won't be able to bring men into the space at all. And one of the expectations is they also can't have the partner camping outside. That doesn't work either. For one, we don't even know what that relationship is. That might be a violent and exploitative relationship. It might be unsafe. And so part of that responsibility is to make sure that kind of tail that can come with this use, that we're addressing that. Sorry, I'm looking in that direction, but I don't know where the question came from. Yeah.
Sorry, a lot of redundant traffic between Rosehaven and Bethanie's room and supporting safety and cleanliness. We've kind of spoken to.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the things that we like about this location is the proximity to other services, but then we also understand that the migration can be problematic, not just for the people who are using the shelter, but as you've identified, the things that sometimes come adjacent to that. And so part of the work that we're doing as part of this process is thinking through solving for that, ways that we can transport vouchers for the bus, vouchers for radio cab. It's one of the things that we're talking with Portland Solutions and the city is what is the transportation arm of the mayor's shelter program? Because those are going to be the concerns wherever the shelters are, is that question of migration. And also, we want to make sure that if women are leaving this space to go get services, that they are also safe in that route as well. Yes.
Does Blanchet have one passenger van, or how many of those do you own?
We presently own one passenger van that we can use in Old Town. We're looking for opportunities to get some grant support for additional passenger vans. We're also talking with some of our partners. Ivy Lakes has transportation shuttles. What can we do to support other organizations to solve those transportation needs?
Yeah, I really think that's a good idea. Like when this closes, I'm just picturing like when this closes in the morning, to be able to shuttle people to breakfast over at Blanchet.
Right.
Or shuttle them over to Rosehaven to line up for Rosehaven there. I think that would be a good solution to transporting people and not just leaving them here, kicking them right out in the morning so that they have to walk over to Blanchet House or Rosehaven or anywhere else they need to get to for the day.
Yeah, I 100%. And so that's a logistical challenge that we've got some time to address.
Scott, can I butt in rudely? There are a number of women's-specific services in our neighborhood that most of my neighbors don't know exist. This is a slightly positive question. Okay. I don't want to call out any of those organizations specifically because they're women's shelters. But we don't know that they're there because they're crushing it, right? We're not getting these third and fourth level effects coming off of them. I think I would feel a lot better and my neighbors would feel better if you could speak to What are they doing? Why is that a secret sauce you've got access to? Is it just scale? Is it just simply scale and good management? These centers are invisible.
Yeah.
And they're doing amazing work. Why are they invisible? Can this be kind of invisible? Like at this scale, I doubt that it can, and I think you acknowledge that. But what's the sauce?
Yeah, thank you for that. So, and I don't know what you're speaking of specifically, but if they're DV shelters,
hinting vaguely at buildings to the best of us.
That's fine, and let's keep those locations secret and private. And so, right, for DV shelters, they are often encased as well as they can in secrecy because of the very real and present threat that their clients are subject to. And so I think all the above. It can be a matter of scale. It can be a matter of good management. I think we've demonstrated in a lot of ways in our work at Blanchet House that we do have good management, that we are attentive and responsive to issues. We've been doing fairly well in a really difficult situation and location with, frankly, not a lot of support in past years from the city and the county. So I share your feelings about how our public entities have handled the situation. And to be frank again, and I have said this on the record before, so I'm not breaking any news, Alan. I think that in the early months of the pandemic, the city and the county's response was derelict. I appreciate they didn't have a plan for something like that. And we can debate whether you should have, and hopefully they do now. But a lot of the harm that we have been experiencing lately took root during those terrible days when the inhumanity that we were confronting day in and day out was extreme. It was extreme. We're hoping that this is one of many measures, many being advanced by Mayor Wilson, that is going to help rebuild. I mean, in a lot of sense, I consider what happened in 2020 a natural disaster. It was a hurricane. It was an earthquake. So think New Orleans after Katrina. And we understand that all the things that they did wrong in the immediate aftermath of Katrina only exacerbated the challenges and the problems and the horrors that they later had to confront. And, you know, I hope it's not true for Portland, but, you know, it's taken New Orleans a long time to recover from that. We believe this is a step towards that recovery. We desperately want this to work because we want to help these people. If it's a failure from the neighborhood's perspective, then it's not going to work. So we have to make it work, and we may at some point have to confront the terrible news that we're not getting the help that we need, we're not getting the support that we need. We have to rethink what we're doing. You talk about good management, you talk about good planning. One thing that I take pride in as an organization, and I have many of my amazing staff members here, is that we are adaptable, we are flexible, we are willing to change, we are willing to say this isn't working. It may not be our fault it's not working, but we are still responsible for the effects of something not working. How do we address that? Because we want people to have a meal. We want people to have a safe place to be in our residential program. So I know I'm asking you to sort of, you know, put some faith in us. And I appreciate you're not bringing a lot of confidence to that, not necessarily because of anything that we've done, but because of your experiences either with other organizations or the city or the county. I get that, and I honor that, and I understand that that is a burden, and I don't really mean burden in a negative sense, but this is something that I have to be responsive to. I'm not here to say, well, that's not us, or that's not going to happen again. We're going to do everything we can to make sure that it's better, And if it's not, then we're going to have to regroup and redress and figure out what we can do. I just want to go over
Well,
here.
my question was for the city rep. What assurances do we have that the city is going to respond with police? We've already seen the defunding of officers in the last couple of weeks, and I'm sure more will happen. So should we call park rangers, or how do we actually solve the problem when, because just the other night I had a gentleman trying to be nice set fire at the foot of my building. Unfortunately, I'm a single mother. Smoke was going into her apartment, and she had a young child in there. She ran out. She ended up getting into a scuffle with him, but still was able to put it out. The police did show up, so thankfully that was fine, but it is like, one of my, excuse me, this is supposed to be one of the tonier parts of town. So you pay a premium to have certain luxuries, experiences, and it's like, I work downtown, I kind of want to take a break from downtown life, if that makes sense. And seems like this is just gonna be a magnet. So what's the city's response to that? If we're defunding police and we're cutting back on services, so what you guys got?
So thank you for that question, and I really appreciate it, and I've been listening and taking notes. I want to share a couple of things. First of all, what I'm hearing today, I will be briefing the mayor on the things that I'm hearing from all of you. And we have a meeting every Monday morning where we're talking about the crisis and the crisis response in the mayor's plan. So right now is budget season within the city and within the county at the moment. So I think you're referencing some of the conversations that have been happening at council, some of the amendments to the budget. The mayor is proposing within his budget to increase our street outreach, right? And so those are the individuals who are working with people who are living outside, living unsheltered, or at risk of homelessness, to support them in connecting to services. And the idea behind that is, as we are working to stand up publicly 1,500 beds by the city, and that's in addition to these private beds that we're really grateful that Blanchet House is leaning into. We know that we also need to work with those individuals to connect them to the services that are going to help them on that pathway. And so that's what outreach is about, and we're going to work with each of these shelters to work with folks in the morning, to work with folks in the evening, and try and help them connect to those services. And in doing that, also support the neighborhood and what that means for livability. In terms of the response, there's been a lot of discussion about the appropriate response for the issue, and there's investments in looking at the police, the PSR responses, fire responses, the chat team. So there's a number of different responses that this city benefits from. And so there's a lot of work that's happening there. The mayor is very committed to helping neighborhoods be successful as shelters are being stood up. And that includes private shelters as well as the city-funded shelters. The idea behind that is that we're going to keep having these conversations, and I think that's really important, that we keep hearing from you as the rollout happens, so that we can address your concerns in real time, and also just understand what's happening.
And
we know.
Sorry to cut you off, but
yeah, that's fine.
How's the tie-in with the county? I mean, I know it's a mess to say the least, but like, how are they supportive of this? Have you how are we gonna make this a smooth process for all parties?
Well, I'm sure that you're having conversations on the Blanchet House side. I talk to counterparts at the Homeless Services Department with the Multnomah County every day, and we're working on what that system, how we can improve the system. We know that there have been pain points in the past, but really on the working level, we're working very closely to try and address issues.
I have a question for you. As a long-time volunteer to house meals in the neighborhood, almost 30 years, my main concern is human trafficking on that path. It's not an uncommon thing to see it all the time. Lots of women suffering, as we see on a nightly basis. We know we have 5 officers on the human trafficking team. Could you convey the information to the mayor that we need more help with specifically human trafficking team? Because 5 officers for the entire city of Portland is not enough for us.
And
We do
one
that every
DA
day.
for that position.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, Scott, I have a finance and security question. So on the finance side, I hear that it's no government funds going into it. I recall fourth quarter last year, there was fundraising done for Bethanie's at St. Stephen's.
Correct.
So is this going to be in addition to St. Stephen's? And if not, did that money go to this project? So that's the first question. Then security with Echelon, they're going to be carrying guns. Are you willing to do body cameras with the private security?
Echelon has body cameras.
Okay, they do.
Oh yeah.
Good.
Oh yeah, they're a serious and professional security outfit, and that has done wonders for our services in many ways. And actually, I'll be honest, I don't think we expected this. We were concerned initially that having that presence would deter people from accessing our services, and what actually happened is that we became busier than ever. Because what we heard from other, we call them meal guests, was that they felt safer. By and large, and I think this is coming through a lot of the questions, is we understand there's a lot of victimization in the community that we see on the streets. And the worry is not so much for their actions, but for the predatory things that surround that, and that is absolutely the drug trafficking, the sex trafficking, the sex exploitation. Getting them off the street at night will be a step in the right direction, but not the only step. And part of our advocacy also includes making sure that our city and our county elected leaders know that there are pieces of this matrix that they are solely responsible for and funding. I put a lot of faith right now in the provider community that we are a part of and the relationships that we've developed. There are concerns because I think if you're watching the news, you understand there's going to be a lot of federal pain when it comes to housing subsidies and vouchers, food benefits, Medicaid cuts that are going to impact our poorest, oldest, and most disabled individuals. It keeps me up at night.
How about the financing for St. Stephen's?
So the financing for St. Stephen's. So St. Stephen's was the initial plan. It was an opportunity that presented itself because the church was selling to another nonprofit, Operation Night Watch, which now owns and operates out of that building. And the sanctuary space was beautiful. It is beautiful, and we thought in many ways could work. As we went through some of the due diligence, it is a very old church. And it has the kinds of issues that sometimes come with a very old church. And in terms of leasing that space, to go back to your previous question, and Operation Night Watch being a rather small nonprofit, we were going to have to sign on for a lot of that mitigation, and we just thought long term that wasn't necessarily going to work. And there were other, I think it could work as a shelter, but there were some things that we just thought maybe wasn't in our best interest. We didn't raise a lot of money at that period of time. We raised some, and we were grateful for that. But yes, it's moved over to this program. That's right. Yes, sir.
I got to follow up on that because I own the DC Crosser right here at the gym right here. One of my members was part of the diocese of St. Stephen's, and he has quite the story about how all that funding and all that kind of stuff went. I'll just read the end of this text. Blanchet House was well aware of the structural needs that church needed before you partnered with Operation Night Watch. Operation Night Watch was in the process of buying St. Stephen's. Blanchet proceeded to put out a press release and announce that it was going to open a women's shelter without consulting Operation Night Watch or St. Stephen's or the Episcopal Diocese of Oregon. Blanchet started to raise money for the project. Blanchet's announcement happened before the deal was closed with St. Stephen's, and it raised a lot of concerns with the members of St. Stephen's and with the bishop. Then, after Operation Night Watch completed its building inspection and shared it with Blanchet, Blanchet pulled out because the repairs to the buildings were going to be too expensive. The only reason the diocese was selling the building in the first place was because it needed repairs, and Blanchet was well aware of those needs. So the unauthorized press release, premature funding, and ultimate walkaway make me very skeptical of Blanchet's leadership team.
And Al Frank, the structural deficiency was settling in the northeast corner. They got 3 bids. Deacon Construction was the lowest, and it was about $50,000 to $75,000.
Right. So
$3 million budget for this.
yeah, we weren't fully aware of. We heard that there were some issues with the foundation, but they hadn't yet done full inspections. And I don't want to really get into the weeds in that. That's Operation Night Watch's inspection, but there were other things. Yeah, I mean, we understand that was a difficult thing for the parish to go through.
I just think that, part of it's like, man, you guys are nice kids too. You got 1 passenger van. You're in talks with the county. You're in talks with transportation. You're open 75 more beds. You still got 1 van. It just seems like, talk about no plan. The city got no plan. It feels like you guys got no plan. You can't control the things that you're trying to provide. It seems like you're short.
Can I say the need is real though? The need for the women who are out there wandering downtown at night, whether or not Safes is open. Safes is at capacity usually, 52 beds. My partner and I work at night downtown, and we're out there all night. And when there is no such thing as county or city outreach, there's nothing. There's nothing. Nobody out there. Everything, all the nonprofits work during the day. All the contractors for the county and the city work during the day. The 10 outreach workers that the mayor is putting on the budget, city outreach workers, they're going to work during the day. All y'all probably sleep at night, right? Most of you. Anyway, we see a lot of need out there. It's real. It's real. We find women wandering and not knowing where to go. Some of them have been to Safes. Some of them don't want to go back there. Sometimes they've had issues with staff or something. More options are better. I mean, having more options is necessary. It's necessary.
Blanchet doesn't have staffing in place for this location yet either, right?
Not there yet.
Got it. I agree. All of those are well aware of the problem.
I just want to get to the point about this is us. The community we need to step up. I mean, these things are, these services are really constrained and limited and getting defunded, and we need to be the ones guiding people to services sometimes. I mean, honestly, we have to. I know Northwest Community Conservancy is doing it. Neighborhood associations are stepping up sometimes, but we feel really alone out there sometimes when we can't. Say Safes cuts off women's entry at 10 o'clock, but we still find someone out there needing a place to go. We're hoping this will give them a little bit of an option downtown, because there's nowhere else. I mean, there's Gresham Women's Shelter, or you call 211 or something, they're going to send. I mean, people who are down here who depend on Blanchet's meal services, and they're sticking around so they can have meals. And
I think you just hit a problem on the head. They're sticking around in the neighborhood between meals. And I think that's part of what the small business is. And we get broken into, people get broken into.
Oh, yeah.
And I know that there's a reason, but that's an issue that needs to be solved. Yeah. What are they doing in between the meals? What are they doing in between the staying of the night?
Yeah.
They got 1 van.
And we see the service resistant, the so-called service. We see the camps down here, and we see the break-ins all the time. And that's another thing that we encounter out there, and we feel alone at night. Police aren't going to come and help you if you're not the victim of the crime. So we're seeing these break-ins, and but again, we as a community have to realize we don't have officials and city employees always there to help us. And if you can, step up, make contact. I'm talking about you as individuals. At this point, these budget cuts that are happening are going to put us all in that position even more than ever, where we have to be the ones connecting people to services. So if you see someone wandering or camping or passed out on your, in your doorway, you're the person. You do the welfare check first. You be the welfare check. Don't talk about Steve Novick is going to have the PS3s hired to come do the welfare checks, and they'll be half the cost of the police. You do the welfare check. Ask the person if they're okay. Nudge them. You're gonna sometimes, young men, you're not at risk, okay? Just touch them sometimes you need to if they're not waking up. Don't call a cop to do that. It's a waste of time.
It is. You're right. It is
But I mean, it usually is. But you know, I think we need this service. We need this place to take people. We need this place to take people, and we need to step up and care for people in our community.
I don't want to make it more of an issue than it probably needs to be, but we only use the passenger van was only needed for our residential program to take our residents on outings. So it's not a reflection of sort of a
harping on the trafficking concern, and that you guys are ill-equipped to do that too. You don't have staff, you don't have the vans to deal with that. You haven't talked to the county. You're in contact with the county. We hope there's a lot of talk.
Right.
A lot of talk.
Okay, so I don't think you've asked a question yet. So let me go here, and then and then to the Cots band.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Just kind of setting aside the issues that we all know about this. Let's fast forward a bit. One thing that we haven't seen is community involvement, or like Rosehaven, Wind Temple, all these things. They don't really allow for community meetings, and it's. What I think we're seeing again here is that people are coming in and deciding the neighborhood's future based on their own ethics. And it does feel a bit like ethical, like colonization, really. It's like, we're gonna come in and change your neighborhood because we have a belief that we're doing the right thing, and we don't need to listen to you. And Rosehaven's had 2 meetings in 3 years. They first committed to monthly meetings, and then they had 2 and stopped. Are you going to be open to being a member of the community and allowing us to have a voice consistently as the years go on?
That's our intent, and again, I appreciate the skepticism that's born by past experience, even though that's not necessarily experience with us. So I acknowledge that, I value that. It actually ratchets up sort of our incentive to try to overcome that skepticism through action. So this was the first of what we had planned to have many meetings, and that they would go on. And one thing that we thought would be, that would be great for that space is the ability to have neighborhood meetings. And we've been talking about that. That may actually be, could it someday even be an asset for the neighborhood that might be looking for daytime space to have meetings or other things. I mean, just thinking about what can we use, how can we integrate that facility and that parking lot into the neighborhood. These have all been things that we have talked about as we've talked about neighborhood engagement. And by the way, a lot of the motivation for this is not just because it's smart practice, but because we've seen how it hasn't worked well in other areas, in other locations, and we have seen the consequences of that. So rather than make those same mistakes or missteps, we're having we're like, all right, what can we do to go the other way? And then and this is it. This is the first of that. This is our demonstration of this. And again, the intent was to have this first one focus on sort of the more proximate neighbors. I'm glad this happened. That this is what it is. When we saw the Alan's publication of that, I was like, okay, that's great. I mean, well, it wasn't what we planned for the first meeting, but we were going to have this meeting soon after, so it might as well be today. And so that's yes. So I think yes, that is our intent. And also we have a dedicated email, and we have staff who are responsive to that. And because we know we have to get the information in real time.
What about a community member on the board?
We could have a community member on our board of directors.
Yeah, do you have any currently to live in this neighborhood, or do you plan to incorporate somebody to show your
I think we do have board members in this neighborhood, but I would be open to a community sort of I don't know what to call it, but some community group
Scott,
that
do a
involves
monthly
neighbors.
meeting. I was very heavily involved for 5 years with the opening of the Behavioral Health Resource Center, which was the biggest cluster on the planet. We had 750 people show up the first 2 days. They can handle 125 people. That basically decimated the tourism industry downtown. About $5 billion worth of damage. And instead of fighting them and suing them, I said, let's figure this thing out. And things changed when the county started meeting with us on a monthly basis. And we collaborated, and we got volunteers, and we've done community outreach. And everybody within about a 5-block radius that owns a business has a phone number that they can call when there's issues. So you need to go ahead and commit to doing monthly meetings with the community.
Yeah, I'll go better than that. I had said to my staff that I think it would make a lot of sense to have weekly meetings initially. And maybe we get to a point where we're like, hey, I think we could do this every 2 weeks.
Love it, love it.
And then, that necessarily wouldn't be our decision to make, but maybe we get to a point and things are working well, and the neighborhood says, maybe we can go to bi-weekly. Maybe we can go to monthly. We don't have to predict that. We don't have to schedule that. But I prefer to handle things in real time because that's the nature of our work in meal services. We can't wait a month to address what's going on. We often can't wait 48 hours, right? So, yes, I want to go to you in the beautiful hat.
Thanks. Hi. I do have a question about security. Now, I know that this has been already been discussed, but I'd like to go a little deeper. I 1,000% believe that more shelter spaces are needed for women, for everybody in general, but definitely for women to protect them. As a neighbor who will be living right across the street from this now, it's not the women inside. We get tents right across the street. It's never the people in the tent. It's who they bring. And they come and they poop on right outside the apartment, right on the lines, the statues out there, not, on it. There's drugs, there's needles, there's poop all up and down the street. It brings, when they come, they bring everything with them. When they go, all the streets are clear, everything is cool, and then it comes back again every time they make the rotation through. So my question to you is, how are you going to make us safe? That live right here. How are we going to be safe at night?
Because of the adjacent behavior that
what they will bring. They call their boyfriends. I've been in a shelter.
Right.
I know what they do, and they will call people, even though it's supposed to be a private, space. And they will bring their boyfriends. They will bring the drug dealers. They will bring the people that will come and hang out and make us all very miserable.
Right. Yeah.
My dog doesn't. I don't want my dog stepping in human poop. And I'm not saying it's going to come from the people in there. It's going to come from the people who will follow them over there.
Right.
So I guess that's my question. How will you prevent that?
So we're committing our private security. We're making sure that we can have PPB's commitment to respond when there needs to be response. These things are happening in your neighborhood right now. We don't want to make it worse. We're hoping we make it better, and I appreciate the skepticism, and I can't necessarily promise. I can't do that by fiat, but the hope is that our presence here will actually. There might be a time when you look back and you say, actually, things did get better once Blanchet was here and was, helping us engage the city in addressing these issues. That's my hope. I don't know, I don't want to promise that because I don't know what your faith would be in that promise, but that's the expectation. That's our plan.
I have the start of a solution. I think we need ID. All citizens, you can't go to a place without ID. Why are we not giving ID to everyone? The state of Oregon could easily set up cameras to give them a state ID. It's just ridiculous. We don't know who these people are.
So we
can't track them. When they come into a help center, they should have an ID, and it would on the back of your ID, a scanner. It's all so simple now. Why are we not doing that?
Well, I can't speak for the broader issue, but for this program, clients will have a photo ID for intake that we will be providing them. And that is also another way that we can both keep tabs on their situation by name, but also address challenges with specifics. There are many operations in town that use a system like that successfully. I think most prominently Portland Rescue Mission, and yes, and there are some other programs that also
But
use.
it's not a state ID.
It's an internal system, and TPI also has IDs, and then there are ways.
It's supposed to be a statewide.
There are ways, and we're
bottle bill. They can do it at bottle return places. That's where most of these people go for income.
Right.
I just want to also just mention that our people, I want to be really respectful of everyone who took the time to write their questions down. So maybe we could take a couple from
two more from this deck that kind of haven't been spoken to.
But you've had your hand up a long time,
Cots,
sir.
Well, I think that I would like to say that it's interesting how the community is hearing this. We've been told that you come in to open and engage the community, but from your own website, talking about this project, it says when we have closed on the sale, we will announce the location and engage the neighboring community. That seems like a real out of order cart before. Exactly.
That needs to be updated. I'm sorry about that.
Well, but that's what happened.
Well,
We've been told basically this is going to happen whether we are against it or not. So you said it on here and you did it. And second of all, my problem is that what I've been told is your organization is going to try to maintain this space, but if something happens around it, well, that's the city's fault. And that's, you said that yourself, like we're working with the city, and if the city doesn't take care of it, well, that's not your fault. So what I've seen is it feels that this magnet is going to be built, whether the community, you keep telling us you want community engagement, but it's being done without community engagement. That's obvious here. And then finally, second of all, you're washing your hands of anything that happens in the community and blaming the city. And I don't think a lot of people in here are very confident in how the city has handled anything. And so my question is, I mean, do you not feel that that's what we've been told in this room? Because that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, if I was misunderstood in that one point, I just want to be clear about that. What I was intending to say before is that we understand there are limits to what our organization or any independent organization could do when you're talking about serious matters of crime and sex trafficking and drug trafficking, and we're talking about going out for an untold number of blocks. We do need the city to be responsive to that. And what I believe I was trying to say before is that if we find out that the city is not going to be responsive to that, then we have to reassess what we're doing, not to wash our hands of it. This is only going to be successful if the city is a full-throated partner in all of these areas that we can't manage. If that turns out not to be the case, for whatever reasons, then we understand that this operation is not going to be successful, and we're going to have to reassess that. So that was not me saying I'm washing my hands of it. It was saying that we are not just going to say, oh, well, we had higher hopes for the city. It's like, oh, we are really on our own here. This isn't going to work the way that we hoped it was. Yeah.
One that I wanted to speak to was somebody's question about sort of the timeline. Will there be construction outside the building? When would we occupy, open, etc.?
Yeah, there has to be some mediation on the exterior wall, the stucco wall, but that's going to be surface level. We'll be repainting. There's a water-damaged exterior wall against the parking lot that needs to be repaired, but that's relatively minor. The work is going to be on the inside. We're expanding the bathrooms so that there's more bathroom access. We're putting in security cameras and other security measures, and but there's not active construction going on exterior. The roof is in good shape. It just needs to be cleaned more often.
Quick question about, I read that there's going to be no showers. I think if I invite somebody over to my house, and usually, I think it's like a human dignity thing where somebody comes over to sleep, they would have an opportunity to shower at least. But that's not going to be available here. What's the logic behind that?
The space isn't set up to accommodate showers for up to 75 people. I appreciate what you're saying. I don't disagree, but we're connecting them with other partners who do provide showers. But that is
So I mean,
an issue.
Isn't it an appropriate space then? If you can't provide a shower for somebody that's going to sleep overnight, number one, there's kind of like some hygienic and concerns, I would think. And if that's something that doesn't come with a bed, a shower and a bed is sort of like they go hand in hand, I would say. Like if you can't provide that, why is this an appropriate location, especially for 75 people?
Another reason to leave.
Rose Haven has showers. If they're shuttling. Rose Haven's on Northwest 18th and Gleason, just 6 blocks up the street here. So
if they can do it, why can't this place do it?
Another good reason for transport directly there would be, for that purpose as well.
How did you come up to the 75 figure? How many showers does Rose Haven?
So 75 is what we believe we have capacity for. But we may actually, as we sort of get into it, it may turn out to be less. But just sort of the way that we've measured the space and we're thinking about the kinds of cots and mats that we would be using, that we could probably accommodate up to 75.
Have you considered different scenarios where you say 50 with showers, for example, or have different scenarios been assessed in that way? Has there been a design process?
The thing about the showers is, as much as we wish that we could provide showers, it does create a lot of logistical challenges. One would be sort of exiting people in a timely manner at the end of the service. So I think there's a lot of things in all of our services we wish we could do, and there are some limitations that just come from lots of different places, and that's where this is successful because we can work with partners who have the capacity to provide those services that we can't.
There's a shower truck also that maybe you will consider bringing.
And I don't know if we would bring the shower truck here because then that just occupies, right? So, yeah, I don't.
The last one on here was down of the frequency with which we might work to remove litter from the area in the neighborhood.
Yeah, that's really important. I think first and foremost is litter is often interpreted and is frankly, in my opinion, a sign that things aren't working well. I think this is, if you've been listening to Tim Boyle, he's been beating this drum about litter and graffiti, and we understand that in our area of Old Town as well. And so that is a piece of it, is making sure when we talk about not increasing the harm in the neighborhood, in the community, litter and graffiti is a part of that, and we're going to be working in our planning to make sure that we have ability to respond to that. But also we understand that we're going to have to respond to things as they happen in real time. So whatever plan that we have for litter may be the plan that works on day one, but we're going to have to reassess and modify that plan on day 10 or day 20, and that's what we expect to do. Yes, ma'am.
Couple things on Rose Haven, their showers are underutilized. They're not fully booked, and it's more complicated than just put some in the shower. So they already have people that are trained staff and people, and they're underutilized. Also, the thing where you're talking about the entire system caving because the city's not providing enough cops, it's not a money issue. Can't just hire cops, dedicate to this area. It's just money. This doesn't look like money's the main issue here. It's it's all these smart people putting their heads together. But when you say, well, if it doesn't work out, we'll let the system cave because the city's not providing enough cops, pay for more cops. If the city's budget can't handle it, bring in some private money. Settle it through money. Money can handle so many of these issues. And also, like you're saying about using resources. Rose Haven's amazing. I mean, that operation is stunning. And the shower thing, no problem. And also, going from, if you go into you need clean clothes, you take a shower, you're back in your dirty clothes, that's an issue. Dirty linen. Whereas at Rosehaven, you get a new set of clothes. You take a shower, get new clothes, you're going to a place to sleep, you have new clothes in your shower. So there's in terms of coordinating resources, that's the key here. And also money. Money will solve the security issues and the Cots issues. Just hire some extra help. Dedicated to this neighborhood, dedicated to help, working overnight, like this gentleman said. Not just working today. People are working the night and moving around the neighborhood and that have the ability, from legal point of view, cops. Hire specialists. It's just money. Money does not seem to be the main issue.
Thank you, Seth. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question.
Yes.
I live directly behind this building, and I want to know what hours the facility is open. I think we need to figure out how to address violence within the facility, women on women violence, because that often happens. Are you going to have a metal detector for guns, knives, things like that? Or is the door just open? I know a lot of street people carry weapons. I live here. I hear gunshots every night, all around the neighborhood. I took the streetcar the other day, and it was filled with nothing but homeless people shooting drugs on the streetcar. It's available. It's lovely to give people a cot to sleep on, but it's not enough. Is it really, truly a safe place? Okay, maybe there's someone at that door that checks your ID and says, yes, you can go in. But I don't see how you're going to provide the safety for the women inside.
That's a good question, and that's certainly been part of our planning. We're not going to have metal detectors. We don't have metal detectors in our meal service program, and we have hundreds of people come through that space and have a safe, enjoyable meal every day. And so we have to ensure that we're attentive to the safety needs both inside and out. In terms of the hours, we haven't pinpointed those exactly yet because we want to see how it can mesh with other opportunities in the area. But you can imagine something that might be like from 7 to 7 or thereabouts. Yeah.
Scott, can I just interrupt for just 1 minute? I just want to be mindful of the time because our amazing host, Triple Lindy, would probably like to have some business hours today. So we do have a hard stop coming up, so it's probably time to kind of wrap up this initial conversation that we're having, maybe talk about what to expect next, etc. But I also really would like, I hope everyone will come back to the Triple Lindy, support the Triple Lindy, because I think when we walked around the neighborhood and introduced ourselves to people, and then people said, oh, you're having a thing at the Triple Lindy? I love the Triple Lindy. So clearly it is a neighborhood part, and so we want to really support that and thank them all for having us here. Anyways, yeah.
Thank you. I know we didn't get to everybody's question. We'll respond to these questions on our website. They're going to help inform and we'll report back to the Neighborhood Association. We'll let Alan know when we plan the next one of these and the ones after that as well. We don't have a date certain right now, so I don't want to just offer one without sort of having a moment to round up with our staff. Bethanie's room at blanchethouse.org. It's Bethanie with an I-E, so it's I-E-S, no apostrophe. That's a website that is a dedicated website to receive communications from anybody who has something to say or ask about Bethanie's room. But I'm sorry there are hands up in the air. I do want to respect Triple Lindy's opportunity to operate their business.
I was invited till noon.
What time is it?
I got an invitation. I got 9 more minutes.
Yes.
I got a question.
Okay. I wasn't watching by clock. So. Yes, sir. I'm gonna go here, and then I'm gonna go there.
We got plenty of time for all of us.
I heard Echelon are concerned about using Echelon specifically as a security company. Their behavior has been so bad that the police have investigated them for long periods of time into their criminal behavior and their treatment of homeless people. as well as the founder of the company was fired as a cop in Clascanite for his dishonesty. And the DA had also put out a memo to pretty much anything that Echelon says that they pretty much don't take it at face value because they lied so much. So, and they're pretty well known, I would say, in the homeless community about their abuse of homeless folks. So, can there be a reevaluation of what company you use for security? Good question. Are you aware of their behavior?
So I'm not aware of the things that you specifically mentioned. We've been working with them for, I think, now like 4 years, and our experience with them has been very positive. When it hasn't been positive, we found that they've been responsive to that, and we do understand they have built up good relationships with people that we serve, often know them by name. So I can only really speak to my experience with them, and that it's been positive, and we would expect that to occur should we use them at this location. That is our current plan. But yes, sir.
A lot of this discussion is turned on the gap between aspiration and execution. We talk a fine game about neighborhood engagement. As of 9 p.m. last night, a neighborhood association in this area, which has been on the ground for more than 50 years, has yet to be contacted. That is a bit of a gap between aspiration and execution, and we need to work on it.
I appreciate that, and as I said at the onset, our plan was to have a series of these, and because the Triple Lindy offered this space, we talked with them.
It's a matter of picking up the telephone.
Right.
You don't need to have a meeting to contact the neighborhood association. It's been here since the mid-1960s. Please pay attention to details and execution. You're trying to launch this thing, and the air is going out of the tires. You can do a better job.
Yeah. Fair point.
I agree with the Cub fan and what you said. You're reaching out. I would just repeat this last part of this text. So the unauthorized press release, premature fundraising, ultimate walkway makes me very skeptical of Blanchet's leadership team. What's the closing date, and is a purchase agreement require city assurances before you close?
I don't understand what you mean by city assurances.
The city assurances you say you have to have to be successful here. Is that required in the purchase agreement, and when's the date of execution for that closing?
So it's not required by the purchase agreement. I mean, it's not in the document itself, right? And that's a document that's provided by the seller.
So how's the accountability going to happen?
Right. In terms of, well, I don't know if the accountability comes through the purchase agreement.
Fair.
But
you're going to buy it before you have the assurances.
Well, these are the conversations we're having with the city now.
Attention to details.
Yeah.
Because what you're doing is really hard. It takes unbelievable attention to detail. I'm a trainer and it's hard. And that's easy compared to what you're doing. And I feel like I got more deals going on doing pull-ups and push-ups over there. So that's why I think I'm concerned about that, because I just don't have faith that you're going to do everything you're saying. The logistics don't allow you to be accountable to it. That's the problem.
Right.
Yeah. 5 more minutes, people.
I appreciate that.
Can I say something? I think everybody, and I think you guys understand, I came in late. I'm new to this area. I live above this building. I also work in real estate, so I kind of know what goes on with these transactions. And you can kind of see, to your point, you stated the Triple Lindy offered this space, and it's such a good community turnout. I think what you're seeing right now is a representation of the community coming to voice themselves, to say, hey, we have seen legislation fail us time and time again. We've seen people pronounce and say this is going to work time and time again. And we don't want the buck not to just stop with you, but you to disappear, in 6 months when it's there and we're like, our cars are getting smashed. I live, like, my window faces this building, and I've watched activity happen out here. I've seen the cars that are possibly producing fentanyl to these people. I've seen the tents go up and out, rapid response, back and forth, back and forth. It's not working. And I think that's what the community, that's what you're seeing in our eyes.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not working. It's not working. And it's not failure to you guys for trying, because we understand that these people need a place. And showers is something, like this gentleman said, is a common decency to offer someone. Then to say, hey, you came here, you sweated some stuff off, now I'm gonna send you back out into the street out refreshed. I don't leave my house without showering. Like, you know, so it's one of those things that as a human, you guys are trying to help. But when you try to help someone and you start off failing, it's going to corrode from the inside. It's a great facility. It could work. It could work. But I think the community's fear and what you're seeing right now is the community, we're not so backing it. That's the scary part.
This is a fraction of the community that would have shown up if we'd had more advanced notice. There would be a lot more conversation, and there needs to be. And just to learn that the date that this is supposed to open is this October is just shocking to me, just absolutely shocking. It's a fait accompli, and it's appalling. And I'm with everybody in my sympathy with the community that needs these services, absolutely. But this is a very fragile neighborhood.
Thank you for that. For the Triple Lindy.
Right.
Knowing that why would they and knowing that that activity is going to be like right next. I park my car literally right there. Tents will be there, and it's one of those things where the Triple Lindy. I love Ryan, and I love what they're doing here, but the causality of that being there could slow my draw to come here or even invite people to this neighborhood.
Who's going to Chinatown for lunch tonight?
Yeah.
Anybody?
But I thank you guys for your time. You know, and I think I understand what you guys are doing.
Joe.
This is needed in the city, though.
Hey, man, no one's arguing that. Nobody's arguing that.
The women out there need some place to go, and if you haven't met them, come meet them. Come meet them.
Anyone here is welcome on a ride along with my partner and I. We're out there every single night till about 4 a.m. It's very, very literally night and day difference. Than walking around in the daytime or working in the daytime. Nighttime, we need more help out there. We need more eyes out there. If anyone here wants to meet some of these ladies that would stay in this place, please come out with us at night, anytime. Come to see me, get my number, and any night that works for any of you here, you're all welcome to come and meet these ladies that would benefit from this.
And if you don't want to come along with us, just do it on your own. Please try. Just if you see someone confused on the street, wandering around at night, make contact, ask if they're okay. Just ask if they're okay. And try to figure out if they're disoriented. Try to figure out where they can go. Work through it with them, and you might find out that this kind of place is needed. It may not be the perfect location, but if you believe that this is a real problem in our community and there are people that really need this kind of thing, try to come up with a better solution. It's really hard to do.
Lease it, don't buy it. Better solution. Lease it, don't buy it. Better solution.
Exactly.
Lease the building, don't buy it.
We do appreciate the efforts. I mean, my partner and I are really appreciating Scott and his team trying their best to do this. And we did know Bethanie, and it was really upsetting to know how she died. And you don't have to have known her to know that people like her. You do know someone. I think you'll all recognize someone in the community who's similar. I'm sure you can think of someone. Go talk to that person. Ask, well, why aren't they staying at a
So like when one of my coaches comes to open the gym, they're going to have to do that now to the person in the doorway? That's part of the job description? What are you talking about?
Living in this neighborhood. That's
You gotta be a neighbor, you gotta look out.
I get that, but that's not a, hey, congratulations, you're working at my gym now. This is part of the job description. You get to help people in crazy crisis times of need. They're teaching pull-ups and push-ups. They're not equipped to do that. It's an asinine solution.
Yes. So all these businesses are closing on Burnside, for example, because we got people like, for example, I mean, we can name people who are, they're upsetting to people to have to encounter. There are some people that are, they have behavioral health issues, but we don't see professional outreach workers helping them, and that's where we're saying, this is a place where we can send people in desperate need where they might get some help.
We're talking about vulnerable women, you know?
I'm with you. I got
I think what we're missing, and I think you and your partner probably do a good job. If we were to have this conversation again, as a person, how I would get your message is if you came in here and you showed more success stories to be like, hey, this is the proven fact. In that time period of 6 months, we had these people come through, 75 people came through, and guess what? Now we don't need 75 beds, actually, because that number is going down. Right. And I'm just saying.
Oh no, we're not with these people. We're community members.
But you guys are making that statement as, hey, we are trying to help these desperate people that are in need.
We're delivering food, and we have to stop what we're doing every night to address someone who, for example, is naked wandering in the street and doesn't know where to go.
And that's what's called upon your heart to do, which that is great, but I wouldn't recommend anyone in this neighborhood, I walk the Safeway a lot, to stop and talk to anyone.
No.
I would not recommend any person in here.
This is our problem.
It is our city and it is our problem, but that could put someone's life in danger by stopping and talking to someone that just shut up.
If you're confident, anyway, it is a problem that's not Scott's problem alone or Blanchet's problem alone. And I just want to say again, try to help someone and see what they need, and ask yourself, would this help them? And if you see that they have a need and you don't agree with this as a location or with the model of how this is working, I mean, maybe you don't consider this your job, but we feel like it falls on people who do care. It falls really hard on them. Like, this is not Blanchet House's responsibility alone either. I mean, their meal services and their other services that they do have been their main concern. This is something they're stepping up and they're seeing a need in the community, and I have to say I appreciate it.
So the gentleman makes a good point. This is actually a city and county responsibility. So June 11th, I forget the time, but if you go to Portland City, you can find the time. They're voting on the final budget. Just 2 weeks ago, they defunded police $2 million, and basically they're telling you, call Park Rangers, I guess, if you want support, because that's where the money went, which was to hire more police. We're already short police. For a city of our size, we have less than half, and a large part of them are going to start retiring soon. So, I mean, I appreciate what you're doing. I know you get a lot of flack for what we've seen for the last 5 years. I work downtown. I've got folks coming into the hotel I work at who are in crisis, and you're asking private business owners to risk their employees and their lives and their customers' lives to I don't know what. I don't know what. Like, we're not prepared for it. So
I call the police.
You know, right. And then sometimes they just don't come. So if you are, I mean, you're getting an earful, but June 11th, look up the time, Portland City Council. That's the final vote for the budget. So let's all show up and let them know in person, because that's the only way they pay attention. Brother, I see you. Thank you.
I just actually have to say, Triple Lindy has asked, in fact, that we kind of move along because they want to have a business day today. So
I want to thank you for your honesty, for your frankness, for your passion, for your concern. You can imagine it's not easy to sort of stand up here and have to take that, but I'd rather that than you feeling like you don't have a space to ask those things. So I'm not offended by it. I appreciate the appreciation. We're going to keep doing that. And but I also understand your skepticism. I understand where that's coming from.
When's the next meeting?
We'll get that information out shortly.
It talks.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, sir.